Taiwan, February 26, 2032. At midnight, two police patrols responded to an SOS call from the residence of a conglomerate named Wang Shikong, CEO of the Wang Corporation, who was currently sick. They were both invited in by the stewardess of the family named Cheng, who took them to a room with a scratch mark in the shape of a triangle inside a circle. Apart from that, there was also a very strong smell of incense coming from inside the room. A puff of smoke looked like there had been a fire before. It turned out that Wang had died horribly with his head crushed. There was also his wife, Li Yan, who was unconscious while holding an heirloom object called Vajra, which was suspected to be used to hit Wang's head. Seeing this, the two police immediately called the ambulance. Not long after that, Li Yan woke up and was shocked to see the situation. In another place, a detective named Ah Bao was having an ultrasound of her 7-month-old pregnancy while accompanied by her husband, Wen Chao, who worked as a prosecutor. The baby looked healthy and they both were happy, but that happiness didn't last long because after undergoing an X-ray test, several spots of cancer cells were found in Wen Chao's spine, which made his legs go numb. The cancer cells were difficult to eliminate even with chemical drugs, and sooner or later, his brain would be infected with cancer in the final stage. The doctor introduced a new therapy that uses RNA recovery technology. Even though it couldn't kill cancer cells completely, at least his life would be extended by undergoing this therapy, but they still had to wait because the technology would only be launched at the beginning of next year. Before undergoing the therapy, the doctor advised Wen Chao to do a genetic test to determine whether his condition would allow him to undergo therapy. On the way home, Wen Chao and Ah Bao argued. Ah Bao wanted to sell one of their apartments for the sake of her husband's recovery, but Wen Chao didn't want to be a burden and chose to surrender to his condition because the cost of genetic testing as well as therapy with RNA technology would definitely cost millions of dollars, which wouldn't be able to be covered just by the money from selling the apartment. The news of Wang's death had been spread, but the fact that his wife Li Yan, who was suspected of being the perpetrator, was still being kept a secret from the public and had been arrested by the police. The news also explained a little about Wang Corporation, which operated in the field of cosmetics, biotechnology, assurance, education, and real estate. Wang often donated to charity for underprivileged children. Before he died, Wang was already suffering from brain cancer. On the other hand, Wen Chao met his superiors and offered to return to work as a public prosecutor and handle Wang's case. Wen Chao put his health aside because he had to support his pregnant wife. The superior thankfully allowed him to return to work because he was an excellent prosecutor. Meanwhile, Ah Bao started interrogating Li Yan, who explained the incident according to chronology. On the evening of February 25th, before the murder occurred, she had difficulty sleeping, so she went to the balcony. And when she was about to return to her room, she saw a strange symbol scratched on the door of the room where her husband was being treated. There was Wang's son, whose body was covered in tattoos, Tianyu, who was carrying out a series of magical rituals. The smell of incense came from the room. Tianyu was Wang's son from his late first wife, Suzhen, who was also a technician from Wang Corporation. Before he fainted, Wang contacted the police via an SOS message from his cell phone, and after that, Tianyu knocked him out of bed, smashed his cell phone, and hit him on the head several times, using the Vajra in his hand. Li Yan saw that and tried to stop him. Before leaving, Tianyu said that Wang had to sacrifice himself for the sake of other souls. Soon after, Li Yan fainted from the shock of seeing Wang's blood splattered until finally, she woke up with Vajra in her hands when two policemen and Cheng approached her. Meanwhile, Wen Chao watched the interrogation from his office and saw Li Yan's left index fingernail was broken. It was Cheng's turn to be interrogated. She admitted that she woke up because of the noise, followed by someone screaming. After that, she left her room and saw Tianyu running away from the house, and when she was going to check Wang, the police arrived. She invited them in, and then the scene was seen. Li Yan said that Tianyu has been missing for a long time since Suzhen, his mother, died. However, about 2 weeks ago, coinciding with Chinese New Year, Tianyu finally returned home all angry while accusing his father of killing his mother. Li Yan explained that the tattoos all over Tianyu's body were his way of communicating with his mother's spirit because Tianyu and his mother had been doing black magic. Apart from that, the symbol on Tianyu's chest, which looked exactly like the symbol on the bedroom door, was revealed. The interrogation came to an end. In front of Ah Bao and his colleagues, Wen Chao explained the results of his observations that in the will left by Wang, there was a name which was Wang's old friend named Yu Fun. Ah Bao asked Yu Fun for an explanation as to why he was chosen as the heir, while the only child of Wang, Tianyu, was not included in the will at all. Yu Fun said that the motive for Wang's murder was because Tianyu wasn't included as the heir. Later, during Cheng's interrogation, Cheng said that Suzhen died of severe depression. Since she gave birth to Tianyu, Wang never touched or paid attention to her again. Apart from that, Suzhen also knew that her husband was having an affair. The day before she died of falling from the balcony, she got angry and hit Tian-Yu because he was growing more and more like his father. When she died, Wang only appeared at the funeral so that he would still be considered good by the media, even though the one who took care of her funeral was Yu Fun. An inscription that looked like a woman's face on Tian-Yu's hand was revealed. Cheng admitted that she didn't like her boss, Wang. Before she worked there, Wang had hired many stewardesses before. Even though Wang was severely sick, he still wanted to marry, and Yu Fun finally introduced him to Li Yan, one of the orphans from the orphanage which was taken care of by Wan Corporation. Wen Chao was reading a report from the forensic team which stated that from the wound on Wang's head, it was likely that the murderer was someone left-handed, and Li Yan was seen holding a pen with her left hand. Even though a lot of evidence of the murder pointed to Tian-Yu, Wen Chao refused to let Li Yan go home because apart from the Vajra found in her hand at the crime scene, there were Li Yan's fingerprints all over the place. Moreover, she was also left-handed, and that meant she might still be the perpetrator. Wen Chao ordered the detectives, including his wife, Ah Bao, to find the cause of Su Zhen's death. Ah Bao went with her colleague to investigate the crime scene of Wang's murder. The condition of the room was still the same as when the incident occurred. She found the same symbol scratched on the floor near a pile of Su Zhen's belongings. They couldn't realize that there was a bag that suddenly lifted and fell on its own behind them. Ah Bao checked the bag, which turned out to contain ancient books about black magic. She then went to the balcony and felt how quiet the house was, and she imagined how Su Zhen died from falling from there. The incident occurred a year ago. It was revealed that Su Zhen committed suicide by jumping from the balcony. Before jumping, she informed a journalist to expose something about Wang to the public, but when the journalist got there, he was very surprised to see Su Zhen jumping from the balcony, and while it occurred, he filmed the incident. The case was then closed and strangely reported as an accidental incident instead of suicide. In the video, Su Zhen was seen throwing some money into the air, but it was never found by the forensic team of the crime scene because it might have been carried away by winds. Ah Bao presented the black magic book she had found, and they began to put together all the clues that had been found so far, such as Cheng's statement, which said that the relationship between Wang and Su Zhen was indeed not harmonious. Su Zhen, who was reported to be very obsessed with black magic to the point of studying the most powerful black magic, and the spell on her body she carved using the Vajra that she used to put a curse on Wang, because not long after she committed suicide, Wang was diagnosed with brain cancer and Wan Corporation fell into a crisis. Ah Bao said that according to the book, the method Su Zhen practiced would not make her soul reincarnate again. From the autopsy report, there was also a hallucinogen in Su Zhen's body which came from a certain plant, and its composition was similar to the incense found at the crime scene of Wang's murder. Ah Bao suspected that Tian-Yu used a special incense and then beat Wang with the Vajra until he died. Ah Bao, the motive was more than just revenge. Apart from that, there was a CCTV camera in Li Yan's room which Yu Fun installed with Li Yan's consent, but Yu Fun did not want to explain why he installed the camera. Furthermore, Ah Bao explained that according to the CCTV footage at the time the murder occurred, Li Yan was indeed not in her room. According to Li Yan's statement, she was on the balcony. Ah Bao then found a strange recording from November 11, 2031, 3 months before the murder incident. Li Yan was convulsing like she was possessed for 3 nights in a row, and after being examined by a lip-reading expert, Li Yan apparently was talking with Su Zhen, but from the psychological test, Li Yan didn't show any mental illness. During the first trial, Wen Chao asked Li Yan to explain the recording of herself convulsing in her room, after which Li Yan explained that from the first time she arrived at the house, she felt the presence of someone else in the house until one night she was strangled by an invisible figure and saw the appearance of Su Zhen's spirit. Since then, she felt that Su Zhen was trying to take over her body, but on the night of Wang's murder, she was completely conscious and even tried to stop Tian-Yu's actions. She then advised Wen Chao to investigate Tian-Yu through the incense he was using at the time of the incident because the incense plant was only found in special chalky soil areas and there were not many places like that in Taiwan. Hearing that, Wen Chao was suspicious of Li Yan's statement, which seemed to understand the types of incense used during the incident. Li Yan said that Su Zhen had found a location where the incense plant was grown for his son. After that, Wen Chao looked at the CCTV footage of Li Yan's room and then saw Yu Fun entering the room, and Li Yan looked happy. After undergoing routine chemotherapy at the hospital, Wen Chao Googled and found news about Su Zhen and Yu Fun's affair. He also found a controversial project that was promoted by Su Zhen and Yu Fun regarding brain replication research using RNA technology to cure cancer. Not long after that, Ah Bao came to give the documents following Wen Chao's request. After that, Wen Chao showed various clues that had been found. First, Li Yan's attitude changed very drastically when she first arrived at Wang's house a year ago. According to Cheng, Li Yan was a very polite and shy girl. She always behaved like a good girl and even always changed clothes in the toilet because there was a CCTV camera in her room. But strangely, a few days after she had convulsions, she suddenly dared to be completely naked when she came out of the bathroom, and the door to her room wasn't even closed. Apart from that, she also turned into a left-handed person, even though in the will, Li Yan signed the documents with her right hand. Her signature had also become much neater. The oddest thing was the CCTV footage of Li Yan being seen so close to Yufan in her room. Ah Bao and Wen Chao attended the event, which was discussing the latest project from the Wine Corporation, namely RNA technology to cure brain cancer with a success rate of up to 92.35% and being able to transfer consciousness from one individual to another. After that, Wen Chao asked about what would happen if one mouse's RNA was implanted into another mouse, but the event did not hold a Q&A session and his question was left unanswered. After that, Ah Bao, Wen Chao, and several other detectives met Yufan. Wen Chao asked about the relationship between him and Li Yan and asked about his affair with Su Zhen. Because he had been promised that all information would be kept secret, Yufan began to tell a fact. A year ago, when Wang was diagnosed with brain cancer, Wang began looking for a successor who had to come from his family, but it was clear that he would not choose Tianyu because he wasn't liable and he might also pass on his cancer to Tianyu, so Wang finally married Li Yan. Li Yan and Yufan became the second heir, while Wang and Li Yan's children would become heirs when they were 18 years old, so that he could live until their children were old enough to become the heirs. Wang became the first patient to undergo RNA technology to cure cancer, but it only extended his life and his brain cancer could not necessarily be cured. Meanwhile, Li Yan's baby's genes were planned to be modified so that they would not get hereditary cancer, but the modification caused side effects where Li Yan became frequently paranoid and had seizures exactly like the CCTV footage in her room. For the rumor about his affair with Su Zhen, he didn't want to say anything. Wen Chao then said that the journalist who filmed Su Zhen's suicide claimed that Yufan was also there and what Su Zhen dropped from the balcony was not money, but instead some intimate photos of him and Su Zhen, but the journalist had been bribed so that Yufan would not be linked to the incident. Wen Chao began to explain his theory that after Wang had cancer, Yufan introduced Li Yan to him and pretended to take care of the company's hair, even though his real intention was to use the RNA technology to insert Su Zhen's consciousness, who had died at that time, into Li Yan so that he could be with Su Zhen again, though in Li Yan's body. After that, he took advantage of Tianyu's anger at losing his mother to kill Wang. Hearing all this, Yufan immediately threw Wen Chao and the others out because they had theorized without clear evidence and were inconsequential. Yufan said that no one knew how much sacrifice he had made for Wang's family. A few days later, the forensic team recovered the data on Wang's cell phone that was damaged because it was destroyed by Tianyu when the murder incident occurred. Wen Chao and his colleagues finally found Tianyu's hiding location and would immediately raid it along with armed troops. The area was in a forest in the middle of nowhere. Arriving at the location, Wen Chao and Ah Bao found a pile of photos of Su Zhen and little Tianyu. There were also spell seals and an envelope with a letter from Su Zhen for Tianyu. After that, the armed troops entered the warehouse behind the place which contained incense plants with a very strong smell, and suddenly, Tianyu attacked them, but they managed to pin him down. Shen Yu was immediately taken to the police station and when interrogated about the murder incident, he only said that his father had to be killed. He told them a message from his mother the day before her death asking him to look after her incense plant's garden on the mountain because the Buddha would soon take her life away. After Wang was cremated, Wen Chao did a cross-examining of the statements of each witness, namely Tianyu and Li Yan. But when he was filling out the form, Li Yan was seen deliberately rubbing her finger with the paper until it bled. After that, when the two witnesses were facing each other, Tianyu admitted that several weeks after his mother's death, he returned home to attend the memorial ceremony and Li Yan gave him a farewell letter from Su Zhen. Something strange happened when Li Yan was asked to give a statement. She suddenly cried and asked how the condition of her plants on the mountain. Li Yan had been possessed by the spirit of Su Zhen and said that before her death, she had written a letter addressed to her son. However, the letter was hidden by Wang until finally the spirit of Su Zhen was able to give it to Tianyu by possessing Laiya's body. Su Zhen thanked Tianyu for killing Wang and that she could finally see her husband burning in hell. Tianyu could only cry because he had finally been reunited with her beloved mother. The letter's content was finally revealed. The reason behind Su Zhen's suicide was not simply because she wanted to expose Wang, but to sacrifice herself in a ceremony so that Wang would receive a curse. The papers that were thrown into the air when she jumped from the balcony turned out to be spells. After her death, Wang was immediately diagnosed with brain cancer and his company suffered huge losses. The letter also contained Suzhen's plan, which wanted her son Tianyu to return home a year after her death during the full moon to draw a spell seal on Wang's bedroom door and then killed him using the Vajra. After the incident in the interrogation room, Li Yan was visited by Yu Fun. On the other hand, Wen Chao's condition worsened and he was rushed to the hospital. The doctor immediately carried out an emergency brain surgery which put him in a coma for 2 days. When he woke up, he couldn't move her body and had difficulty speaking, but his wife helped to take care of him. Luckily, the hospital was willing to provide free RNA technology surgery for Wen Chao in the future, but after the operation was finished, he sadly had to live his life paralyzed because the cancer cells in his spine were too severe to handle. Finally, Tianyu was made a suspect in Wang's murder and would be imprisoned for life. Meanwhile, Li Yan was discharged from the hospital and was taken by Yu Fun, who looked so close to her. But something was off because Yu Fun looked worried about something. A few days later, Li Yan suddenly ran away from home while calling the police because Yu Fun was trying to kill her. When Wen Chao's condition got better, he went back to checking the Wang case investigation files, but he was shocked to find 2 voice recordings from Wang's cell phone that Ah Bao deliberately cut off. It was revealed that Ah Bao had already known that Li Yan was the murderer of Wang and that she wanted to seize the company with Yu Fun. After that, Ah Bao agreed with Li Yan and Yu Fun by editing the voice recording evidence so that Tianyu would become the suspect on one condition. Wang Corporation had to provide free RNA surgery to her husband. Hearing this explanation made Wen Chao disappointed with his wife because no matter what, he would still be paralyzed and he felt that it would be better to die than suffer through life. While holding back her tears, Ah Bao said that she dared to break the ethics of law enforcement to save him and the life of their child. At the police station, Li Yan explained what happened when Yu Fun attacked her. At that time, Yu Fun came as usual to give her medication to strengthen her pregnancy, but she felt suspicious and removed the injection before it was finished. Yu Fun saw that and suddenly threatened to kill her if she doesn't want to hand over ownership of the Wang Corporation to him. Meanwhile, Wen Chao, who was monitoring Li Yan, checked the will written by Wang again. He then secretly asked Li Yan to talk privately and then presented this sound clip which proved that Li Yan wanted to seize the company from Wang. Without feeling the slightest surprise, Li Yan asked what Wen Chao wanted from her. Wen Chao began to explain his theory in 5 pieces of evidence that supported it. The first was the letter from Suzhen, which was written and modified by Li Yan himself to incite Tianyu, who hated his father, into killing his father. Second, Li Yan always wrote Wang's name as the maker of the statement in many documents as if she continued to move under Wang's name. Third, on the night of Wang's death, from the voice recording, Tianyu was heard running away after hitting Wang twice. After that, Li Yan took the Vajra and continued beating Wang until he was actually killed. Fourth, Wang Corporation was experiencing huge losses and had RNA implantation technology that could copy one person's consciousness to another person. Fifth, a recording of Li Yan's voice during the murder of Wang where she said that Wang would make the same decision if he was in her shoes. All the evidence led to one conclusion, namely that Wang had implanted his RNA into Li Yan's brain, which meant that all this time Li Yan was actually Wang. Hearing Wen Chao's theory, Li Yan smiled and confirmed it. Wen Chao asked why Wang chose a woman's body to continue his life, but he completely ignored him and left there. It was clear that the scene in the interrogation room was just a trick by Wang, who pretended to be possessed by Suzhen's spirit so he could lie to everyone. People think that Tianyu was actually the one who killed Wang, while Tianyu indeed admitted that he was the killer, because when the incident happened, he was so scared he ran away from the house and thought Wang was dead, even though Wang himself, by using Li Yan's body, was the one who finished it all. The next day after Ah Bao went to work, Yu Fun suddenly met Wen Chao at his house and wanted to ask him for help. Yu Fun finally explained what really happened between him, Wang, and Li Yan. The public indeed knew Wang and Yu Fun as best friends who built Wang Corporation together in 2012, but it turned out that they both had liked each other for a long time. Apart from that, Wang also has a desire disorder of becoming a woman, but he always covered up his dark side in front of the public so far as determined to marry Suzhen in 2014, just to maintain his image. Wang, who didn't have the slightest interest in Suzhen, always acted coldly in front of her, while Yu Fun felt guilty for her, who was ignored and often accompanied her to chat until a rumor emerged about their affair. Then, as the company's research progressed, Wang wanted to use the RNA technology to transform himself into a woman so he could continue managing the company. For years, Suzhen lived with Wang without the slightest happiness until finally in 2030 she found evidence of an illicit relationship between her husband and Yu Fun, and then wrote a letter to her son Tianyu that she was going to sacrifice herself to put a curse on Wang. The papers thrown in the air the day she committed suicide were not only spells but also intimate photos of Wang and Yu Fun. Not long after Suzhen killed herself, Wang got brain cancer, which made the two depraved couples speed up the RNA technology research and would use it for two things. The first was to keep Wang alive, and the second was to bribe Li Yan with $100,000 to make her a vessel for the RNA belonging to Wang. In 2031, Li Yan agreed and became Wang's official wife and was written as the heir to Wang Corporation together with Yu Fun. The surgery was carried out in Wang's secret basement laboratory, and the side effect that appeared was Li Yan often had convulsions at night. After convulsing for 3 days in her room, Li Yan's consciousness began fading as Wang took over her body. What was more, Li Yan's body was injected with sperm from Wang himself, so that he could continue his lineage using only himself. After undergoing RNA transplantation, the real Wang often felt anxious. Li Yan overheard the conversation. In the end, Wang's clone in Li Yan's body carried out the plan, first adding the contents of Su Zhen's letter, which told Tian Yu to take revenge on Wang, despite the original content of the letter being nothing more than a goodbye. Tian Yu then came and hit Wang twice before running away. Wang's clone in Li Yan's body then killed the real Wang to finally took over the company. However, after the incident, the clone fainted and was dragged into the case because the original Li Yan had a phobia of blood, and the original Li Yan's subconscious still had a little control over her body. After this incident, Yu Fun felt disappointed with Li Yan's decision to kill the real Wang because the only figure that Yu Fun loved was the real Wang. That day when Wang's clone in Li Yan's body ran away from the house was the day when Yu Fun decided to kill her, but the suspicious Wang's clone managed to escape and called the police. Yu Fun told Wen Chao that he didn't know whether the operation was really successful because the Wang inside Li Yan was not like the one he had known. He needed Wen Chao's help to force Li Yan to confess in court that she was the one who killed Wang, and Yu Fun would provide supporting evidence. But Wen Chao came up with another idea, since Yu Fun's plan would drag Ah Bao to prison, since she had edited the evidence of the murder. After the incident, Li Yan, who was the sole heir of the company, grasped all the control and kicked Yu Fun from there. A few days later, Wen Chao arranged a meeting with Li Yan at her residence and was accompanied by Yu Fun, who disguised herself as Wen Chao's nurse. When they got there, Wen Chao asked whether the curse that Su Zhen put was really effective because his family had been destroyed. His boyfriend had left and his company continued to suffer losses, but Wang inside Li Yan didn't care about it all because he could still control the company. After all, affection would only ruin lives, just like Ah Bao, who dared to defy the law enforcement code of ethics so that Wen Chao could get the RNA surgery, or Tian Yu, who took revenge for the death of his mother. Not long after Wang said all that, Yu Fun immediately entered the room and paralyzed him. Long story short, Li Yan suddenly decided to resign from ownership of Wang Corporation and was no longer associated with the company. On the other hand, Yu Fun killed himself by lethal injection in Wang's room because he felt guilty after Wang's death. Meanwhile, Ah Bao found a recording of Wen Chao's voice saying that he wanted to protect his family, as well as a final message for their baby who might not be able to meet his father because he was dying. A few days later, the trial was held and Li Yan finally admitted that she was the one who killed Wang and showed all the evidence, including admitting that she was the one who modified the evidence. She was sentenced to life as a suspect, and the sentence for Tian Yu was reduced. Not long after that, because his brain cancer was getting worse, Wen Chao finally died. Ah Bao continued her life after that, and her baby sadly never had the chance to see the father figure. After several months, one afternoon while carrying her baby, Ah Bao visited Li Yan in her cell. She couldn't help but cry after Li Yan said that her baby looked like Wen Chao. After that, Li Yan stroked Ah Bao's head, a gesture that was usually only done by Wen Chao. It was revealed that when Li Yan was met by Wen Chao and was paralyzed by Yu Fun, Li Yan was asked to admit to the murder and modify the evidence, but she refused. In the end, Wen Chao was forced to carry out his plan, namely to implant his RNA in Li Yan's brain and erase Wang's consciousness. In conclusion, Li Yan was actually Wen Chao. According to the voice message he gave to Ah Bao, he would do anything to save his family, even willing to lock his consciousness in Li Yan's body so that he could confess in court and serve the sentence in prison without being able to live with Ah Bao and her child for the rest of his life.